Today we're talking about Porsche versus BMW. Porsche, my bad. Everybody gets so pissed off in the comments when I say that. Anyhow, I'm going to explain to you why I'm probably not going to buy many more BMWs. And it all depends on your lifestyle. What kind of lifestyle do you have? Do you need a 2 or 4 seat car? Do you need a functional 4 seat car? And as you know, a lot of 911s are 4 seat, not really usable 4 seat unless you have some very small kids or your family of midgets maybe. You could function that. All the Caymans, Boxsters, all the GT cars are all 2 seat cars. And so you have to be able to do that for a family. Me, myself, it's usually me and Phil, me and my girlfriend, it's me and one other person almost always. So we could do the 2 seat car. Now, if you want to blend in a little bit, a lot of times you could drive a BMW, you won't be picked out and it's something crazy, wild, loud, or something just very rare. And then even at that point in time, it's only going to be enthusiasts are going to pick that car out. So if you're worried about theft, chances are nobody's stealing your BMW, unless you live in some kind of hood that they're going to steal anything. But Porsche stuff, it is a beacon for attention. As our G-Wagon was, it was even worse. But it seems like the blue Porsche, we could drive around a little more and it doesn't jump out at you. People don't notice it quite as much as the red one. We had the red Cayman, it was, that was something else as far as attracting attention. And a lot of times even the wrong kinds of attention. You go to park it somewhere, there's always some kind of shenanigans going on and that kind of thing. But they do make the Panamera, the Cayenne, they have the Taycan, all that stuff. Now, the Panamera and the Cayenne are 2 vehicles that are V8. If you get the base model, it's V6, but it's not the flat 6. So that comes with a whole host of other problems. You see that reflected in the price. The resale value of a Cayenne, a Panamera, is not good. It's not good. And once you get into the V8, especially the turbo V8, you're into tons of coolant lines, you're into a ton of issues. And I think Porsche kind of made those cars for people that had families that still wanted the brand, but could haul more than one person. And, you know, I think, especially in the Panamera, they should have carried on with the flat 6 in that car. I think that would have been a great car, made the turbo version with the 911 turbo engine. But to go to the V8, we just see them everywhere for almost nothing. And it's just a lot of you guys saying, buy one of those, buy one of those. The problem is, on those, if you buy Cayenne or Panamera, the chances you'd be able to fix that and come out ahead on it is about 0. Those things are falling like a stone, as BMWs do. They fall like a stone on the resale value. And to make money on a BMW, it's got to be an M car. If you buy a 328i, even a 335i, you know, a 530, a 528, a 540 now. It's just so difficult to tell what it's worth. You know, they come out, they're over 100 grand on the BMWs, and a year or two later, they're 30 and 20, and down and down and down and down and down. And then you have the whiplash effect, I like to call it, to where you could find the price of an E46 and the price of a F30 are about the same price. You know, they're kind of crossing over on prices. An E90 and F30 are exactly the same price. And that makes it very confusing. And another issue is with BMW, they mass produce so many of those cars. There's so many cars around, nothing's rare. You have to get a M3 lightweight or M5 competition, and it just doesn't add up at all. We're starting to see a lot of F10 M5s, a lot of X5M, E70 X5Ms with N63 just come on the market that are broken for almost nothing. And if you guys watch our X6 video or X6M series, we just got that car apart and it just was not worth fixing. It just, you know, we were up $12,000 in a car that it wasn't worth it. If you literally bought the car for free and it was blown up, it didn't make sense to fix it. And it's not only that, is the the aggressive electronics monopoly, we'll call it, that BMW has, where they just make you code and program everything on the car, whoops, all the time, where we don't see that with Porsche as much. You could actually do stuff to it. It's not as particular. Now, we'll talk coolant lines, though. Coolant lines, you can get more miles out of the Porsche stuff than the BMW stuff, as far as plastic coolant lines and fittings. But we still are seeing that on this car and every other Porsche. You still got to do some coolant line related stuff. One thing they have not done, they never went to the electric water pump. It's still a mechanical water pump on these cars. And it's about $100 instead of 3, 4, plus for an electronic water pump that goes out constantly. So there is some gains to be had on that. At least I have to say this. At least the BMW stuff nowadays, with the new scanners that are coming out, you actually can code a program with that without having ISTA. Because not very long ago, you had to have ISTA to do anything on those cars, especially M cars. And that just made it unattainable for a lot of people because ISTA wasn't available. It was all these hard to find clone copies. You had to know somebody or this or that to get it. And then you had to have a major in computer science to be able to operate the damn thing correctly. We could fumble through it and do adaptions and stuff like that. But if you had to use 4 or 5 or 6 programs to code or program a module back to the VIN number, it was an issue. One nice thing about these Porsches, they don't have the flooded ECU problem, which plagues so many BMWs. The drains get stopped up, floods the ECU. Then you're spending $1,000 to get the ECU reprogrammed to another one, and then you have to get it in the car. Then you still got to have ISTA and somebody who knows what they're doing for several hours to get the car even running again. And it's just crazy. There's still a place in my heart for a lot of the M cars, but is it like this car? No, it's not. It's just not the same deal. This is a way, way more nimble and capable car. We've had some big horsepower cars here before. We have some here right now. When it comes down to it, and we just want to hop in and go, we usually drive this. Same with the red Cayman. That was the go-to. Something else you have to look at too, this is close to 30 miles a gallon. A 500 horsepower car that gets 8 miles a gallon, that in a straight line is questionably faster than this or not. It's probably not. I still think this is the fastest car here by a pretty good stretch. And actually the red one was, because red was automatic. The red one was Tiptronic, Cayman. That was faster. You could just slam it to the floor and just click through the gears and that's it. A manual, obviously, you lose a lot of time on shifting. But this is this has a sport chrono pack. It's like a makeshift track car. It's like the beginning to mid-level track car, and being an S with a PSM, all that other stuff. And guys like these cars, you could like drive it to the track. You go race around the track all day and drive it home, and it won't break unless you crash into something. And that is one thing, and Phil will probably back this up too. We can actually drive this somewhere and it won't break. What happened with the BMWs? We tried to drive those anywhere. It was always drama. Drama. It didn't matter how much money you spent on it. It didn't matter how much money you threw at it, how much time you threw at it. It just got to where every time we drove it, it's some kind of dramatic issue. And actually, to be honest with you, it was worse on the base model cars than on the M cars. The M cars aren't too bad as far as reliability wise, but the base model cars, N52, M54 doesn't really count. N54 is a problem child. And M54 is still primitive enough where you can still function that car. You go through and do all the maintenance on it. You spend $500 or $600, do everything. You could actually drive that car and not have much of a problem. But once you get 06 and up, the thing just took a nosedive. And when we sold that Blue E90, as a lot of you guys seen that watch the BMW channel, I sold it to one of the viewers that I worked in his car before, and I sold it to him for cheap. I can't remember what the numbers were even on that car. What we sell that thing for, like $2,000 or $1,500. It's been nothing but a problem for the guy we sold it to. And, so if you A lot of you guys, go buy an E60, go buy a 530i, a 2007 530i E60. X-Drive. That's even worse. And if I wouldn't bought that, I couldn't drive it home. We had to haul it home because it just would need everything. Everything from cam ledge seals to X-Drive front drive shaft, CV axles, brake shaking issue. And these cars do have bore scoring issues, these Caymans, if you get the 97.1. You know, a lot of them have that, but now we found people out of country that could alleviate that problem for, you know, not a lot of money. You could do that total rebuild for about $3 grand. And the other thing is, when you buy the E90s and E60s and you go to fix it, it's not an expensive car. So let's say you go out and you pay $2 grand for an okay, let's say $3 grand for an okay E60 or E90. Like, it's just okay. It's not great. Let's say it's got 120,000 miles on it. Kind of okay shape, not bad. Let's say the car you paid 3, 4. Let's say maybe you think it's worth 445 if everything's perfect on it. Then you start buying parts for it. You start buying electric water pumps. You start buying, Vanel solenoids. It's like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. A valve cover, a factory valve cover. You know, some cam sensors, PCV. It just goes on and on and on. And pretty soon it's thousands of dollars in a car. It's not worth it. It doesn't make any sense. And to shoot those cars for videos only, with YouTube the way it is, it doesn't make sense to do that at all. And, you know, just kind of my thoughts on it. A lot of guys here from the BMW channel, my big channel, a lot of guys here are not from that. And a lot of you guys have owned BMWs and Porsches before. And you kind of understand what I'm saying. This car is not perfect, but this is a pretty good car. As far as handling, a lot of guys are saying the Z4 is better handling than this. It's not. It's not even close. Z3M, none of that's even close to this. This is way more capable. The only thing better than this, you could just buy off the shelf and drive that's better handling this, probably a Lotus Exige S. That's probably one of the very few things. A lot of guys saying Alfa Romeo stuff is really good. I don't know anything about Alfa Romeo. But anything with the front engine versus mid-engine, it's just not going to be the same deal. It's just a different league. And I'm not trying to step on you guys' toes that have Z4s and say it's better. That's fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. You know, if you think that, go for it. No problem at all. But yeah, that's my opinion on this situation. That's why I haven't seen this posted much on the BMW channel. Other videos have been taken off on that channel. I've been kind of leaving it alone for a little bit. We have some stuff to do. Maybe closer to the end of the month, we'll get back on that channel. We have Dwayne's car to do, the M5. We have my M5 to do. But after those cars are done, are we going to keep doing M5 stuff? The issue is, maybe not, because the parts are so hard to get for that stuff. It's so hard to get parts of those cars. So if you take one apart, you need the tiniest little piece, it's months to get it. And it's just excruciating. We're sitting here with stuff apart in the shop waiting for months and months and months, and it's just, it's crazy. It's crazy. That's going to be it, guys. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you understand what I'm getting at with this video. Let me know in the comments below if you're angry, if you're hangry, if you're just regular angry, or whatever. And yeah, we'll see y'all guys very soon.